Hello everyone, my name is Szilveszter Erdős. I'm a mentor from Codecool Budapest, and in the next couple of minutes I'm going to show you how to solve the game statistics assignment in Python. First, make sure that you have already solved this assignment in order to learn from that, and just after watch this video. So here is the description of the assignment, the curriculum. Make sure you read this through thoroughly, and first of all we're gonna work with this reports.py. So I'm gonna switch to VS Code, and this is the reports.py, and because we have tests in this file, I open it as well, and it's important to first run the tests and see that these will fail, of course, because we haven't done anything. Actually, if we run the tests with v parameter argument -v, then it will print out more. So we will see at the beginning which tests are passing and which are not passing. Okay, so we will go test by test, and first solve the first function. First write the first function, which is Julie's question: how many games are in the file? And for that we need to have a count games function, and we hope that this test will pass. Okay, so go back to the reports.py. We can delete this comment and start with the function definition, count games as the description requirement required, file name, and we have to count actually all the games which in the file. So first of all we have to open the file, we can use these variables names, and it will be open as reader only by default, and it's fine by us right now. And we could loop through also. So for example, we could loop through the file for line in file, and if we define the counter, then we could say we could write counter plus equals 1, so it's a compat operator, and at the end return the counter. And now we should run the tests again, and we see that the first test is passing. It's okay here. But of course this could be done in a more easy way. If we don't want to loop through the whole file, but just for example we could do like this, count the len of the file. First it will give us an error, as you can see it here, because this object type io.txt wrapper has no len parameter. That's why we have to cast it towards a list, and then it will work. And of course we should return this. And test it. and now it is working, so it is okay. So let's move on to the next function, which is this decide function. Is there a game for a given year? It has to return a Boolean value, and it has a parameter, an extra parameter as well, so which is year, and we open the file again, and right now we have to go through the whole file. We could do it like just with a for loop, and actually we have to search for that year. First of all, we should find out and see the txt file which column is the year, and we see that the third column is the year, so we need index number 2. So that's why we write if line 2 equals year. What have we do then? If we found it, then we just return it true in that case. And if not, and of course not here, we don't write an else here because it won't be good, as it would be return a false. If I write this, it would be return a false at the first occasion when it doesn't find the year, this year, at the first line. So that's why we don't need this else, and we should put the return here or here. Actually, here is better a little bit. And here is gonna work, or we hope it's gonna work. Let's test it. And we have a failure. It's not working. And let's find out why. And if you have enabled in the preferences menu point, I'm going to show you the so in the settings, the JSONs, you can, if you have enabled this Python.unit test enabled is set to true, then in the test files there are these run test and debug test overlays, so we can debug the test, which is a very handy thing. Right now we want to debug the decide test, and we know that somewhere here there is a problem because it's not working, so we're gonna put a breakpoint here and debug the decide test. And now we can examine that, okay, this is 2000, and what is this value? We gonna put into the watch, and we see that it is an N, so it's not okay for us. Why? Because it's just the second character of that line. First we have to split the line, so that's why we're gonna do that. First we have to split the line because we need the second the third column, so that's why we're gonna do like columns equals line dot split, and we know that it is delimited by tabulators, tab character. Here is it. So that's why we split by a tab character and put here columns and see if it works like this. And it's still not working. We have to be thorough and tough, so we debug it again, because it surely will be better. And right now we see that columns is 2009, the year is 2000, but we see a little difference that this is a string because it has apostrophes at the boundaries, and this is an integer. So first we have to cast this to integer as well. This is the problem. So that's why we're gonna do it like this. Remove the breakpoint and run the test, and now we can see that this side is also passing. We are happy with that. And right now we already can see that we have this window open in both of the functions. So if we want to write clean code, maybe that's the point when we have to outsource this into a new function, and this will be called like get table, and we could also give a file name. And actually this function has to do all these things which are here. And if we declare a variable as table list, we could put those columns variable actually into the list and return that variable. So we do this creating a list of lists from this txt file in this function. So after that we can use it in the following function. For example, in here we could do it like just for actually a row is a better variable. For example, for row in get table file name, and if row 2 equals year, then return true. Let's test it, and it's still working. Okay. But we could also rewrite this as well, because we don't have to open the file here. We have to open the file only just there, and that's why. And we won't need a list because it will return a list already. So we just have to do like get table file name. That's it. So easy. And it's still, the tests are still passing. It's really important to test while refactoring something, because then you know whether you lost a feature or not. So we are okay with the decide and the count games function. Go on with the get latest function. So the question is here, which was the latest game? And the expected output of the function is the title of the latest game. Title of the latest game is a string, and if there is more than one, then return the first from the file. Okay, so we will create that function as well. And surely we have to loop through the table all of our functions will start like that. And actually the latest game means that the release year is the biggest. This is the latest game. So we are searching for, actually it's a maximum search. It's a maximum search, but we have to return not the maximum value of the year, but another field. We have to return the title of the latest game. So we will search the maximum year and return the title. And this is how it's done. First as in the maximum search, in the normal maximum search, we declare variable max year, which will be the first element of this get latest finding. So the first element, and from that the second, so index number 2. We're gonna use that, and we could which is important to have. So max year is important to have an initial value, and in the latest title we're gonna just put none because it's not important to have a value. We won't compare that. And in the for cycle we're gonna do like if row 2 is greater than max year, then the max year should be row 2. And we learned in the previous example that we have to cast to integer, so we know it by now. So for example, here we also have to cast it because this is a string when we read from a file. So we have to do it like this. And of course here as well we have to cast it, and or because we should cast here as well, it's maybe better to give a shortcut here and say that actual year and we're gonna put it like here and here. And we have to also put the latest title equals row 0, the index number 0. And if we are done with the cycle, we have to return the latest title. And now we have to test it whether it's working. And actually it said maximum recursion depth exceeded, so we've done something wrongly, clearly. Yes, because as you see, I haven't wrote get table here, but get latest, and it created a recursion, which means that the function called himself. So we know that we wanted to use get table here and here as well. And actually we are seeing that this is also a thing which is used at 2 different locations. So we could do that, for example, table equals this get table, and it will be much more nice, or it will be nicer like this, because then we just call the function once, and it's also a more optimized version. And if we run the tests, then right now it passes. So the get latest function is also passes, and it was really easy to use this get table function. So it's better now, but we see that if you remember the text, there was some advice about not using magic numbers or magic strings, and these twos actually are magic numbers. So there are a couple of options we could do here. One of it is define, for example, indexes. So we say index title equals 0, index year equals 2, and put those into here. And oh, sorry, this is not the title is here, and the year is here and here and here. It's better to do it now when we see that it has to be done, because later it would be a much more work. Of course, after this refactor, we should test again, and we see that it's still working. So there is another option to do this. Of course, the constants is also a good solution, but we could use a dictionary as well, which could be more convenient, and I'm gonna show it how. So here we're gonna create a columns named dictionary, and the dictionary will be the keys will be the column names. So for example, title, and into the value we put the list item of the column. So it will be columns and the index number 0, and so on. So for example, the second will be this total copies sold, so it could be copies, and it will be columns and first, and release date, or we know that it's a year, so it can be also a year, like this. After that, genre, and finally publisher. Okay, and here is it's gonna work like so this columns named gonna be appended to this table. So this table will be a list of dictionaries. So when we are here, for example, we can use just row and year. So it's so simple. Year and year here as well, and here title. So it's really convenient because this row will be a dictionary, and we can delete these ones. And right now we should test it, and actually this get latest is still working, and it will help us in the later functions, because we don't have to write numbers, so we won't we won't mistype so easily, but we could use these words. Okay, so the next one is, that was the latest game, this how many games do we have by genre, so the count by genre. Okay, so we're gonna do that, count by genre, and this has a file name and a genre parameter as well. Again, we have to loop through this get table, and we have to count, and we also have to check whether it's a given genre or not. So first of all, we have to do an if statement. If row, and right now we could write genre just easily, equals genre, then we are happy, and we should count. So first of all, we need a counter for that, and set it to 0, and here we just increment this counter by 1, and at the end we just return the counter. And we should check whether it's okay, and there are few errors, just 6, so it's probably okay, but we're gonna check it, and it's yes, count by genre is also passed this function, so we are happy. Cool. Then we can move on. The last compulsory function is this get line number by title, and it's gonna be a little bit tricky because we have to raise a value error if there's no game found. So what is the line number of the given game by title? Get line number by title. We could also copy it from here, actually. It will be more convenient. Okay, and again we have to loop through. We are very good at it already. And so we have to get line number by title, so we have to search for a title. So if row title equals title, then we have to do something. Actually, we need the row number, but we don't have the row number here. The easiest thing is just to define a counter and increment it here, and actually return it here. Because if we found that the title, then we would just return the counter, which will be the row number. We could use an enumerate as well, but for right now it will be fine. We just test, and we have failures because value error is not raised, but we should check the other ones. So the get line number by title is okay, but the raises error when no game is failed. So okay, we have done one, but we should have done down the value error raising. This is because we usually do that in order to signal that something is wrong with the function, and we don't return a 0 or -1 or something like that, because it may has a meaning for the outer function, which is calling this function. So that's why we usually do that. We raise some error which has to be handled not in this function but in an outer function. So for example, in the printing module, we're gonna write some function which will call this one and use a try except block to handle the value error which gonna be raised here. But when so the for cycle will go to the end, and when it's end, then we know that we haven't found a title like this. So that's why we're gonna actually just raise this value error here. We could also give a message in parentheses like no such game, for example, like that. We only will be reaching this line when there is no game with this title, because if there is the game with this title, then we will return from the function here. So let's test this, and right now we have passing this test as well raises error where no game, so we are okay with it. Okay, so let's move on to the bonus functions. First bonus functions is about what is the alphabetical order list of the titles. Okay, and here is a hint or a requirement that do not use built-in sort and sorted functions, but implement an easy sort algorithm by your own. And we have to return a list of strings. So this will be the sort ABC. And actually, yeah, we know that we have this get table. I'm gonna just show you that don't use sort or sorted. So if you will use like sorted, for example, like this, then actually it won't be good like this right now. But I just wanted to show you that this test bonus check forbidden functions will be fail. So there is a test for using forbidden functions as well. So we want to do it like that, but we're gonna write an own algorithm. So I suggest you use bubble sort, which you surely knew already. If you don't knew it, then please search it on Google. So for that, we're gonna use this for loop again. And we know that in bubble sort we have to use 2 for loops, so we're gonna use another one. And that's why we're gonna put this into a table variable again. This is because of the bubble sort. We have to go twice through the list, and here is the comparison of the bubble sort. If the table E and we are sorting, what do we sort? We are sorting the titles of the titles, yes. Actually, we could do that we are indexing here, but as we have to return a list of strings which only contains the titles, I prefer to first so only loop through on the titles, and for that I will use a list comprehension. It could be done with the for cycle as well. I just wanted to show how easy to do with the list comprehension. So because we just need the row title for row in, and this is just so easy, and it's then it's not a table but it's titles, and then we could say for title in titles, here is title, and then this titles E will be okay for you. So if titles E is bigger than titles e plus 1, then we should swap them. So titles e plus 1 equals titles e plus 1 titles e. This could be done in Python, but maybe not in other programming languages. Otherwise we need a temp variable, but in Python we could do this one line swapping. So this is gonna work. This is gonna sort the titles. So after that we have to just return these titles, and we have to test it whether it's working. And actually sort ABC is working. Check forbidden function is working because we haven't used any sorted or sort functions. So we are happy with it. The next one will be the what are the genres, and we have to use an alphabetical order again. So that's why I suggest to outsource this bubble sort, because actually one function has to do only one thing, and if we could reuse that other thing, we should outsource. We couldn't reuse, but anyway we should outsource it. But most time we usually outsource it on the occasion when we see that it will be used somewhere else as well. So that's why we're gonna do it like we're gonna define another function like bubble sort when as a parameter as a list, and we just copy this here, and it would be a list. Yes, so we're gonna rename that and rename that. It's gonna work. So we should return the bubble sort titles, and we should test it whether it's working or not, and it's still working. We have lots of OKs here. Sort ABC is working, and we outsource this. We are happy with it. Okay, next function is this what are the genres. So get the genres. So it will be really similar to the sort ABC, as we have to give back a list of strings in an alphabetical order. So I'm gonna copy this from here because we need just the genre column, and we have to do two more things here. One is that we have to sort it, and the other we have to make it unique. And if we do it like first we make it unique with a set function, so convert it in the set, and want to do the bubble sort after that, we're gonna see that it's not gonna work because set object does not support indexing. So we cannot do this indexing with sets. So that's why we have to convert it again back to list, and after that it should work. So now, as we can see, it's working. So we have to pass only two more tests, and these are in connection with the Third bonus, so what is the release date of the top sold first-person shooter game? And if there is no game with there is no any game with first-person shooter, we should raise a value or exception just like in the fifth question. Okay, so what is the release date? We should copy this one. And we are searching for the release date of the top sold first-person shooter. So it's actually sounds complicated, but these are the couple of things we have done before all put together. So we have to filter on first-person shooter. We have to do a maximum search with the top sold, which means on the copies, on the total copies sold, yes. And after that, return the release date. So here's what we're gonna do. Of course, we start with our for cycle. So for row in get table, file name, and we have to filter for first-person shooter. This is the first-person shooter game. If row genre equals first-person shooter, only then we have to do this maximum search thing. And right now we also have to define variables. Right now it won't work if we set the first, so we also need max copies variable, but it won't work if we use the first from here, because it's not a first-person shooter, and it's not good if we embed or fix in this fifth line, because if the first-person shooter is somewhere else, then it's not okay. So right now, because we know that we are searching for a maximum value and there are no negative values in the total copies sold, I propose that we could use 0 as the initial value of max copies, and we need also a top sold year, which will be none as back then the title. Okay, and so we only have to set this max copies if the row genre is first-person shooter. So we could write that if the genre is first-person shooter and the copies of the current row is greater than the max copies, and we know that we have to cast it, but actually not towards an int, because there are also rational numbers, so we have to cast it like a float, and we will do it here. Actual copies will be float row copies, like that and like that. And in this case, when it's a first-person shooter and it's bigger, then we have to reset the maximum copies and set the top sold items year as well, which will be row year, and we have to cast it towards an integer as well, because as we can see in the tests, it requires a integer, not a string. it's common thing to test to check the test what is it requires. Okay, so and at the end we just have to return the stop sold year and run the tests, and we are almost okay, just the raising is not working yet. So we should think about when we should raise that value error. So if it goes through the whole list and the top sold year remains none, then we have to raise it. So if top sold year, we could say that is none as well, but it's common thing to do that if top sold year, then it means that it's already set, because it will be a truthy value. So if it's not none, so it exists, then return it, else raise a value error, there is no FPS game. And that's it. Run it, and all the tests are passes. So we are done with the reports module. We only have to do the printing and the export module.